My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about an Instagram post that I saw this week that really caught my interest. It was from a podcast called Big Little Feelings, and they have 3.2 million subscribers on Instagram. What it deals with is parenting advice, and they say that they specialize in handling toddlers, and they also sell online courses. So they seem to be pretty influential here. Again, 3.2 million subscribers. It's obviously that they're very, very successful. So I have to give a certain amount of respect for that. Now, in this interview that I'm going to play for you, and it's only about a minute long, the interviewer, she does not have a degree, but she is in the group of this Big Little Feelings, and she's going to be interviewing another person who's in this group. And I think there's two major people in this group. And she does have a degree. Actually, she has a marriage and family therapy license, the same one that I have. So this is why I find it really interesting here. So what I'm going to do is, because there's so much to say in only this 1 minute clip that I have, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this because I don't want to start it and stop it 50 times. So I think I'll just play it straight through once, and then I'll talk about it, and then I might have to replay it because there's too much information here. So let me grab this here. And if you can't see it very well, that's okay too. You don't really need to see it. There's nothing here to see. It's just about hearing it. So let me start it now.
My marriage sucks after having kids. I've been struggling with this literally since I became a parent. Let me paint the picture for you, okay? I go into labor at 5:30. That baby is out by 9. Quick, okay? We ended up having a home birth, so we're at home. By 6:30 a.m. that next morning, he is downstairs. Literally was on phone calls for work from 6:30 until like 10 p.m. like usual. And then when I finally do ask for help, I can't walk. I can barely go to the bathroom because I lost so much blood. Could you help me a little bit? And he was like, I feel like you're f***ing butler. Your whole life changed in an instant, and his didn't. What are we doing, and what am I doing? Because I have one f***ing life to live, and I don't feel supported, and I don't feel loved. I feel so f***ing alone when I'm parenting.
Now, I missed the very beginning of it, of course. So let me see.
I'm so sorry I'm late. I know. It was like a f***ing nightmare getting out of the house. I prepped everything. My husband just can't get it together. The kids are crying. I'm like, sometimes I f***ing hate this marriage. You're saying the words, I'm on the brink of divorce. You're saying the words, my marriage sucks after having kids. I've been
Okay, let me just cut it there for a second. There's a lot there in a short amount of time. So let me not address the video straight up yet, but I will. So here are just some basics on how to be a good parent and how to be a good spouse. So number one, you want to try to be a happy, fulfilled, stable human being. And when I talk about stability, I'm talking about emotional as well as financial. Now, I know times are tough in this country right now, probably tough all over the world. So I'm not expecting every parent to be completely financially stable and independent. That might be too much to ask. Actually, probably it is. However, what I'm really talking about here is that a child needs to be able to feel safe, secure, and they need to feel loved, and that they're not a burden on their parents or parents. So again, emotional stability and financial stability. What we're seeing here is something that's not like that at all. We're not seeing that. I know she's just angry, and we'll go over that a little bit more as we go on. So number two, you want to be able to model a loving, respectful, reciprocal relationship. Okay, this will help children because they can see what love is and they can see what respect is, right? Because it's a give and take in a relationship. And number three, you want the marriage to be the top priority. Now, in a lot of places, including this Big Little Feelings, they seem not to do that. And that's why like 95% of their clientele is women. And they talk to women about being parents, but not about being spouses. And it becomes a little off-putting in a certain sense, because it doesn't seem to be a job for both parents. It just seems that they're only focusing on women. Now, if the marriage is the top priority, not always, but typically what happens is that when a child comes into your life, when a child is born, the marriage becomes amplified. It becomes it's in a better place, and it actually strengthens the relationship because both people brought a new life into this world, and both people support that, and that life wouldn't be there if they both didn't contribute. So again, the child should amplify and strengthen the relationship. However, if the marriage is not the top priority, what happens is that children end up causing stress, and it diminishes the marriage. It's like putting a wall up between either one parent or both parents and their kids. And this is not a good way to raise a child. What happens when the top of the hierarchy, the parents, are not put first, it tends to raise the anxiety of the kid. It also increases their narcissism, increases their entitlement. And there's also a good chance that the child becomes parentified. And this is synonymous with psychological abuse. A child cannot be on the same level as one of the parents because, again, it drives a wedge between the parents, and the child has way more power than what they can developmentally handle. So it causes a lot of things, such as anxiety that I mentioned. Anxiety for a long time causes depression. And over time, this causes learned helplessness because they're given responsibilities that they should not have at a young age. And a lot of those times, they are given this job that they never signed up for, is to emotionally regulate their parent. And again, this doesn't work. So that's my template of where I work from. And now I'm listening to this. So let's try to take this step by step. One of them is going to seem a little bit trivial for most people, and I totally understand that. So if you disagree with that, it doesn't mean that you might find something else good in the show too. So don't throw it away because you might disagree with me on this first one. The first one, she's a professional. She's acting as a professional. Again, and I'll say it many times, there's 3.2 million followers listening to her. And what they're getting is a person who can't finish a sentence without using some type of profanity. Now, I'm not that old school. I understand, right? People let loose a little bit, that you let your guard down, you're allowed to curse. Sometimes cursing is the best way to express yourself, like no other word fits. And we need that. And it can definitely, you're holding back if you don't curse sometimes, because sometimes it definitely fits the situation. I understand that. So I don't want to be too old school and say, well, she shouldn't be cursing that much. However, cursing, when you're a professional, when you have the ability to edit, when you're on a podcast, this is how she does want to come across to people as a leader who, again, I'm talking about emotional stability here. The way she's speaking it's completely showing her anger. It's completely showing that she has no ability to be stable. She knows she's being recorded, and she's still going to act like this. Complete lack of control. Let me just say it as that. Again, you can take that or not. I know everybody curses these days, but I still have an issue with supposed professionals cursing like she is. All right, enough of that. Number two, there is no marriage and family therapist in the world that's going to be okay with a person publicly putting down their spouse. She is contemptuous. She is critical. She is just nasty and angry. And it's okay to be nasty and angry. We all get like that sometimes. But to drive to where she's going and then get ready and then put the cameras on, get the lights on, get the makeup on, whatever, and then record and then know that you could edit, and she still thinks, yes, I'm a professional and this is what I want to do. This is how I want to be an influencer to the 3.2 million people that follow me, knowing very well that her husband is going to hear this, knowing very well that she's talking to one of her friends, and if she's doing this in front of a camera, I don't even want to know what she does off camera. There is no way in the world that any therapist would be okay with this. Number 3, mind reading. Now, childbirth, no man really knows about it. The only thing you could do is ask. And one of the things a woman can do is to kind of tell them about it in some way, shape, or form. And she's talking about how this guy should expect to know what's going on and how she should feel. She makes this comment, when I finally decide to tell him I need help. Well, she's already at the point where she needed help. What do you mean finally? There's no way that he could be a mind reader. So in terms of being a therapist, she's literally going down the list of every single cognitive mistake that you can make and every single communication error you can do. It's almost like she's trying to check off the box. And she says this part about he's not around. Well, in the same sentence, though, she also says that he's in the house. He's working from home. So, okay, so at any moment he could have been there to help. So it's not helpful to say that he's not there and he's not around when he's literally in the house with her. And she also says that they decided to have a home birth. Well, listen, I'm a man, and most men would be very scared to have a home birth. They want their woman to be as safe as possible, and they want their child to be as safe as possible. 99.999% of the time, they're going to want to have that in a hospital for all of these reasons. So she decides to have it at home, and then she says, well, when I'm in trouble now, then she blames the guy. Listen, you could have told him to drive you back to the hospital or do something. I'm not an expert on childbirth. Most men are not. But it seems very normal to bleed after childbirth. So who knows the amount that's right or wrong? So she is massively forecasting negativity here instead of having open communication, which is very disturbing for a licensed marriage and family therapist. Let's continue. Multiple times here, she's threatening the relationship. Once again, there is no licensed marriage and family therapist on the planet that's going to tell you that it's okay that whenever you have a feeling or an emotion or you're a little bit angry or a lot angry, difference of opinion, that you need to threaten the relationship. That puts such a wedge in the relationship, and it destroys all trust to the point where you're not going to have open communication on both sides. If a person's going to say something and they feel that they might be disagreed with, and because they're disagreed with, they're going to be threatened with a divorce, how do you expect good communication to come from that? There's another part on here where she says that he said, I don't want to be your butler or something like that. And again, that comment is extremely out of line. That should not have been said. But going with what she's doing here, that she's not communicating in any way that's respectful. And again, she's doing this live in front of a bunch of people. It's taken out of context a little bit, but even if it was, I still think that if he said it that way and he used those words, that would be definitely wrong. He shouldn't have done that. Continuing with this, there's another part here. There's so much here. The interviewer here is doing what a lot of typical therapists do, is that they're over-validating the person without challenging what's going on. And so by doing that, they're egging on the negativity, and they're not actually trying to get the person to say what they need to say, and then start move them towards realistically looking at what's going on. The example is, she said, your life changed in an instant by having a child, and his did not. Well, again, how one-sided is that? Because I have never met a man in my life that became a father that said that their life didn't change completely for like the rest of their life. Now, you're talking about a man in this situation. This is their second child, and he's working from home. And according to this lady, he's working about 12 hours a day or more. it's impossible to think that he is not incredibly concerned about being the protector and the provider and doing all the right things. So to have that point of view, to say, well, a man's life doesn't change at all, and to be angry that she's bleeding after giving childbirth, which seems to me, I guess, that would be very normal. So where is the complaining coming from? And if there is a complaint that's valid or not valid, she should be talking to her husband. She shouldn't be airing this to the social media. There's another part here in the very beginning. She's all flustered right from the beginning of the interview. And she says, "My husband can't get it together." Let's analyze that for a second. First of all, you're not taking responsibility for yourself. If you're late for your own podcast, take responsibility. You can't get on the air and immediately go, "My husband can't get it together." Because here's something for you. I record these shows at home. If you're busy, if you don't feel very well after having a baby, I don't know what that feels like. It might feel terrible. I don't know. But if it does feel terrible, maybe you shouldn't record that day. That's an idea. But no, you have to go in front of your people. So let's just say that's okay to do. Fine. Do your podcast. All right. So now you have to get dressed, you get in your car, and you go driving to do this podcast, to record it. Why do you have to do that? Do you need to have some incredible $1 million studio? If it's that important, be honest with your listeners. Record it from your bedroom. Record it from anywhere in your house that you feel comfortable. I do. Like, so what's the problem? So now you're making a decision saying that you don't feel good. But now it's your husband's fault because you don't get somewhere on time because he can't get it together. I don't really understand that line of thinking. Another part she says she has been struggling since she first became a parent. Okay, I bet you there's a lot of people like that. Maybe even most. But here's the thing. This is her second child. So she's been having difficulty with the balance of being a mom, with being a spouse, with working on this podcast since the first child was born. Okay, so you handle it by talking about it and having an honest conversation with your husband, or you just go and have another kid. And by the way, all of this social media, it's going to come back and bite you because you're putting it out for the world to see. Now, your kids, as they get older, are going to be able to go back and see that you think your life sucks since your kids were born. What marriage and family therapist would ever say that this is a good thing to do? There's a million things to say here. Let me try to run this back again because I probably missed something because there's so many wrong things that she did here. It's amazing. And of course, I can't find it right away. All right, let me try to run this through again to see if there's something I missed. I probably did.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry I'm late. I know. It was like a nightmare getting out of the house. I prepped everything. My husband just can't get it together. The kids are crying. I'm like, sometimes I hate this marriage.
You're saying the words, "I'm on the brink of divorce." You're saying the words, "My marriage sucks," after having kids.
I've been struggling with this literally since I became a parent. Let me paint the picture for you,
Paint it.
okay? I go into labor at 5:30. That baby is out by 9.
Quick,
Okay,
30.
we ended up having a home birth, so we're at home. By 6:30 a.m. that next morning, he is downstairs. Literally was on phone calls for work from 6:30 until like 10 p.m. like usual. And then when I finally do ask for help, I can't walk. I can barely go to the bathroom because I lost so much blood. Could you help me a little bit? And he was like, "I feel like you're f***ing butler."
Your whole life changed in an instant, and his didn't.
What are we doing and what am I doing? Because I have one f***ing life to live and I don't feel supported and I don't feel loved. I feel so f***ing alone when I'm parenting.
The one thing I forgot here is how many times she said the word I. You know, and there's another part to this video that I'm not going to play, but it's about I. Am I comfortable with getting a divorce here? And am I okay with how it's going to affect me? Yes, but when you're a parent of two children, one of the things that you might want to consider is that life is tough, life is stressful. Sometimes you're going to be emotionally dysregulated. But your spouse that you chose to be with for the rest of your life, why is he on the chopping block for being the enemy? And when you're thinking it through about how you feel and you feel and you feel, and it's I, have you considered the fact that maybe you're having difficulty connecting to your spouse at this point, but your children actually do need a parent? It's preferable that you had a couple, right? You can't just throw the guy out just because you had some emotions and feelings, and you're prioritizing your podcast here by again saying, "Oh my God, it's my husband's fault. I couldn't make it to the podcast on time." It's your podcast. You could do it anytime you want. With 3.2 million subscribers, you could probably take off for the next 3 years and still make a boatload of money. So what's the point? So you're doing the same thing that you're complaining that he's doing, except the only thing that he's doing different is when he went back to work and was pushing himself to make money for the family, he was doing it from home. He was probably no more than 30 feet from you. And a man doesn't know the difference. If you are bleeding that much and it was a problem, you probably should go to the hospital or doctor. Not complain that he should have been able to know this, because you would be the first one to know it. So there's 22 minutes. Let me zip down this real quick. Again, what's typical in marriage and family therapy, that you would want the individual person to be happy and fulfilled as a human by themselves. So if they're a happy person, it's much more likely that you can have a happy union with somebody else. So you share your happiness with another human being. Again, that is primary. Again, the strength and the power and the stability of the individual. This was not mentioned here. Again, all she did was attack her husband to death. Number two, you want to be able to model a loving, respectful, and reciprocal relationship. She's nowhere close to this. All she's doing is sitting there with a friend. I mean, I don't mind them talking like this. Actually, I do. But if she's going to talk like this, it should be in a bar while she's getting drunk with a couple of friends. Not doing this as being some type of influencer for women. That's a terrible thing to do. And especially because these kids are going to see this one day. And they're going to know this. Not a good thing. Again, marriage should be the top priority. It's the hierarchy. The man and woman at the top. Or if you adopt a child and you're two men or two women, I don't care. What it is still, it's the hierarchy at the top. It's the parents that are most important. If you want to be a really good parent, start with being an emotionally stable person yourself, and then teach your kid to have a good relationship with your partner. Model that. Again, in order to do that, your marriage has to take top priority. If you don't, you're going to damage your kids. And of course, you're not going to do it on purpose. You're not going to damage your child on purpose by doing that, but you will. And that's the bottom line. Again, every other line out of her mouth is she's cursing here, cursing there. I'm okay with that, really. I just think it does show her emotional dysregulation, and she should know this. And as a marriage and family therapist, I think she should have held back a little bit, or at least did this podcast at a different time, or edited herself in some way, because she really comes across as unprofessional. Again, putting down your spouse publicly, that's a no-go. No therapist would be okay with that. The whole mind reading thing, again, cognitive distortion, she should not be doing that. Threatening the marriage. And at the end, I think she says something to the effect of, I don't know where this is, I don't know what's going to happen. So she ends this piece of speaking with this cryptic thought of, I don't know. I have to make a decision. I don't know. On the other clip, it says that Her spouse is going to therapy, and she's like, thank God. Of course, she has to use another curse right before God, which really, again, doesn't make sense to do that. But again, she doesn't really see that there's two people here where she needs therapy as well. And he probably needs therapy as well, no problem. And they should also be doing couples therapy. The thought that he's the only one that needs to change, again, is ridiculous and is completely beneath what a licensed marriage and family therapist should be putting out there in the airwaves. So again, like I've done previous shows about this type of thing, you have to be extremely careful of who you idolize and who you listen to and who you're looking for this really great information from. Including when you listen to me, do the same thing. Have critical analysis. If you disagree with something I say, that's fine to do that too. Don't buy into everything I say. It might not connect to you. But again, this particular Instagram post, within like 1 minute, there's about 50 wrong things with it. My name is Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.